for some reason. Okay. All right. So let's introduce you to whoever's watching this video. You found me on, how did you find me?
I found you after finding a physician who recommended the HCG program.
Okay, a physician recommended it. Okay, hold on. I want to make sure it's hearable. I just had to shut the door. A physician recommended the HCG protocol, and go ahead.
They told me to come back the next week to learn how to do it, in my follow-up appointment. And in the meantime, here was the Dr. Simeon pamphlet with the information. And so I read this information by Dr. Simeon, and being a scientist, I was not convinced by the information he presented. I needed more current scientific information to understand what he was trying to talk about. And so I spent a couple days on the internet looking for anyone who had published anything currently on this that was not just a republication of Dr. Simeon's protocol, which I found a lot of.
Okay.
And that's how I found you.
Okay, so I'm gonna
back the next week.
Okay, I'm gonna recap what you just said because it is a little rough. I think you're on your Bluetooth, right, in your car.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why it sounds the way it does. So you're in education, right? You work at the university level. You do what
education
are you?
And science.
So you are a master's. What do you have? What's your
master's of physiology?
Okay, so she's a master's of physiology, and you're working towards a PhD.
Nope. I'm working in academia now.
Got it. You're in academia. Anyway, so you do you help with the research. You study. You teach classes. Blah blah blah. Anyway, so this doctor recommended it. You were like, You read Dr. Simeon's protocol. It was fascinating. You kind of did what I did when I read it, which is like, but this is like friggin' old, and it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Like, we're talking about this hypothalamic, like, fantasy of all these different types of fat, and it just doesn't connect. So you went into the internet to see if you can find some current science, and you found stuff that repeated Dr. Simeon's, doctors that repeated Dr. Simeon's, all sorts of stuff. And then, but you came across my book, my blog? What did you come across?
I came across your book first, and I immediately ordered it. And then from your book, then I found your YouTube videos.
Okay, so then you started watching my YouTube videos, and you're like, damn, this lady's crazy.
Well, I only watched like one or two, because in the span of a week that it took to do that, it was time for me to go back to the doctor and get the protocol. So I read your book and read all about eating for hunger, and I went back and I got the protocol and I started it. And when I left the office, the nurse for this physician said, I use this program too. And she said, if you have trouble, you may need to go to this woman, as in you. She's helping me. And now that I've had all of this trouble over the last year, now I understand why she had to go to you. And that she was not fixed by just doing the injection of HCG and eating the hunger. Now I understand.
Okay, good. Now you understand. And we're now like on our... Yeah, and it's been a process for you.
Yeah.
Because you've been...
In that year, I watched a couple videos, and I was not turned off. Like,
so you found me over a year ago. You found me over a year ago.
Right.
Okay. So, and in the span of that time, how many times did you do the HCG protocol?
I did it twice. The first time was very successful for weight loss. Mm-hmm. I was able to go a little bit after for weight loss and do the phase 4 where you're eating, what do you call it, Mediterranean style diet, that kind of thing. And then after I got off that, then the binging came back just viciously.
Yeah.
So I waited a couple months, as was recommended, and did the protocol again. The second protocol, I had no control over the binging while I was even in the very low calorie phase. No control whatsoever. I felt like I completely wasted my money, and I wrong with me, and I felt out of control and miserable. So several months passed after that, where I was, of course, nonstop dieting and exercising.
Tell the listener really quick a brief idea of truly how educated and how dedicated you've been to weight loss. Like, a lot of people, when they're listening, they go, "Oh, she doesn't know what, she hasn't done it. She hasn't done this. She didn't do, maybe she should do paleo. Maybe she should do paleo. Maybe she needs to do ketogenic. Maybe she should do CrossFit." They are assuming you're not doing all of the wonderful things that are out there that most people don't know about, right?
Okay, so I've done everything. I was stuck on my first diet at age 9 by my mother.
Hold on, you're like pressing on keys and shit when you're talking. So hold on.
Oh, I don't know.
It's okay. Because it sounds like beep, la la la, beep, la la la, beep. Okay, so just to recap, you've done everything, right? You've actually done CrossFit to the extent that you've been hospitalized with what? Rhabdo?
Yeah. So I had rhabdomyolysis. This was before I ever got into CrossFit, probably 7 years before CrossFit. I was doing martial arts.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, I found CrossFit and started doing it twice a day.
CrossFit twice a day.
Yeah, twice a day. Great idea, huh? I was so into CrossFit and paleo that I was even teaching the beginner classes
of CrossFit, and you were teaching probably paleo, and you were like, this is a lifestyle, this is a way of life, this is how it works. Because we're so smart, we're gonna follow our biology from evolution, right?
Right. I was spreading the gospel.
Not knowing, yes, you were spreading the gospel, not knowing that it was in a vacuum.
Right.
That's the part, right?
When I started graduate school, it all just blew up because the stress of school caused me to want to be overly in control of every other part of my life, which just made the dieting even worse. And so I was so sick with thyroid issues and adrenal issues, which is why I finally found this doctor that would address my thyroid issues. And she was the one that told me about HCG.
Did you at any point discuss, like, I have an obsessive compulsive exercise addiction, that I have this fighter? So they knew all that.
Yeah. Yeah. So she calmed me down with, she's like, you have to stop this exercise, just insanity and dieting insanity. So she was very beneficial that way.
Good.
She was very beneficial with helping my adrenals and my thyroid.
Okay. And this is someone who's come to me.
Her nurse has come to me.
Oh, I know who you're. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, I know who we're talking about now. Got it. That's good enough.
I'm glad that you remember her.
I'm making it. No, because I know all my clients. I know a lot about these people. So yeah, I know who we're talking about. Okay. Okay.
She calmed me down to a point where I was livable. In the meantime, I was still in graduate school, and over 3 years, I gained and lost 50 pounds 3 times.
So she gained and lost. You've gained and lost 50 pounds 3 times in that period of time.
Yep.
Okay. So anyway, all the and now that you are looking in hindsight, can you see that you killed your organs with your brain? Your brain. Right?
100%. Yeah. I did it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can sit here and go, well, your organs have problems, they're dying, and you need to do something about it. But in reality, what you're doing about it is causing the problem. So it's very hard to see. It's hard, especially when you go get help from people who think that it's not, the issue isn't your belief system. Like, a lot of people don't question your belief system or think that could be a cause of a problem to your body. Like, how could something you believe create physical ailment?
Right.
That is so foreign to people who don't understand the brain and how the feedback from the body and the brain, if you perceive something as scary, your organs respond as if it's real. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. If you perceive something as scary, your adrenals, they're supposed to work that way. So if you're friggin', you know, you could look at the obvious thing here is that you were deathly afraid to have body fat. And that's what you and I had to go into. I mean, and that was the part that I think a lot of people come to see me. They don't connect with that right off the bat because you're like, well, I know I have these issues with food. I know food is a big issue for me. Food is the problem and I need to fix my issues with food. And of course I have to talk about issues, but my issues with food. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, in the end, I'm going to be able to lose weight and then it'll be perfect because I'll be thinner and then I won't have these issues with food, which means it won't be hard to maintain. And I'll be in heaven with all the rest of my thin supremacy church members. And it'll be easy. I'll be one of those, like, I eat whatever I want and I stay thin as I chow down on a cheeseburger and, you know, act as if I'm holier than thou in my thinness. Like I have a special gift, right? That's what you were in your mind. That's all you were aware of.
Right.
So how can you get to this point right where we're at? If that's your awareness. That's what's going on. Right. So there's a process that we have to go through. Well, it's a process that you have to go through. Not me.
Yeah.
I don't do it.
Right.
I already did it. I don't need to go through that again.
Right.
And I don't want to, and I make my life in a space that I don't need to. Right? But if you want out, there is a way out. It just requires that you have your mind open beyond what you're aware of.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a painful process because it takes such incredible humility to open yourself up to it. Right?
And it was actually frightening.
Frightening. Yeah. Well, yes.
To face that, it was a physical feeling that I felt when we were working last week when we got on.
Okay, I have to repeat what you said. Hold on, because every word you said had a beep, 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 beep in it.
I'm so sorry if I can't help it.
Can you put it on speaker?
Sure, just a second.
Let's just see if that's any better.
Okay, how's that?
It's a little better. It's not as, I don't feel like I'm speaking through the computer keyboard. Or you're not. Okay, repeat what you, okay, say what you just said again if you can.
I don't really remember what I said.
Okay. Oh.
It was a physical process where I felt fear, and it was scary.
Okay. Okay, I hate to do this. Go back to your Bluetooth. Because now it sounds like you're talking in a tunnel, like you're like a mile away and we're trying to hear you through a tunnel. Okay. So let me see if I can repeat it. So basically, there was actual physical pain going through the process. That's when I talk about you feel like you're going to die or you're going to get murdered. It actually comes across physically. Your heart, your chest. I mean, your whole body actually goes through. It's almost like your skin is crawling. It's like your teeth are hurting. I remember that feeling. Mm-hmm.
It was in
pressure.
It was in my throat, and it was pain everywhere else. I didn't have like a crushing feeling in my chest, but I'm sure everybody is different.
Mm-hmm. Was for you in your throat, like you're being choked or suffocated. We talked about burying alive, suffocating, but it's definitely. Don't you agree? It doesn't feel like my body's dying. It feels like something outside of me is killing me. So that's that a fight or flight from an outside. It feels like it's an outside source of murder or death. And the resolution, you and I, our last phone conversation, we went through this together. I kind of helped you through it. Right?
I needed help through it.
Yeah, not every one of my clients does it with me. Some of them do it on their own, in their own, desperate sadness around realizing I have to stop. And they don't necessarily have access. It doesn't, like you and I could go through it together because we had been talking about this specific pivotal shift that has to happen. And these feelings that you run away from, that you're hiding from, that you don't want to face. And anytime you felt this thing coming towards you, you always distracted yourself.
Good at running away.
Yeah, you distract. I mean, that's how our brains are wired. That's what's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to go into death. I mean, our brains are wired to run or fight it. So we're doing what is opposite our instincts. And don't you agree, the only way to do what is opposite the mammal instinct is to surrender through humility. You have to be humble. It's very sad, very weak. You have to feel weak. You have to feel...
You have to be willing to be hurt.
Yeah, and it feels like failure. Yeah, the letting it happen part, you had to let it happen. That comes after you surrender the martyr and victim position. Do you see that now? Like before that, it was poor me. I have to be fat and stupid and everybody thinks I'm a horrible person. And there's this, I'm being victimized because I have to tolerate this. And then all of a sudden I remember being like, well, hold on a second, because if you're willing to tolerate this because you are willingly doing it, not because you're being forced to do it, you're getting something in return. So are you really a victim? I mean, what you get in return is total freedom from this crap. Right?
You have to go through, like, visualizing different things, like a parent dying, or someone standing in front of you and saying you're fat and stupid and worthless and I'm ashamed of you, and like visualizing like a family member saying that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and going through the embarrassment component of it, like, if I do this, I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm like, yep, that's how it feels. Because you're coming out as the real person you are, which is this formless soul, and the fake you that you were pretending to be, which is this thin, fit body, you're basically admitting that that was a lie, that it was all fake, that it was all pretend, that you were trying to create an idea of what others want. You were trying to manipulate what they were seeing through this body image. But the reality is you're just a soul, a formless, shapeless soul that's just nice and kind and ooey and gooey and wants to like snuggle.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
When we finished, I went home, because I was staying at work to do that session. And I went home, and I immediately began the book that you recommended for me by Richard Dawkins. I started on page 1.
Dr. David Hawkins. Dr. David Hawkins. Very different than Stephen Hawking, who's the smartest man on the planet. Dr. David Hawkins is a brain scientist who studies human consciousness. He died a couple years ago. He's world famous for his science around the scales of consciousness. I talk about him all the time. He is the one person I study. Like, I literally study the guy because he blows my freaking mind. He blows my mind. So I recommended a book to you I've never read. I've never read it.
It's called Letting Go.
It's called Letting Go. It's so Dr. David Hawkins, Letting Go. That I think is his last book he wrote before he died. I think that he died that fall. It was like published that summer. Yeah. So I think he had a lot of assistance. He died in
2012, it says.
And it was published in 2012. So this book is a easy read. It is like a user-friendly version of his previous books, which were all science and theory, and they're very difficult to read. I'm still reading the same book that I've been reading for months because I have to reread it to try to understand what he's saying. Anyways, clearly I'm not there, right? But how is the book going? I honestly have never read it, so I can't even tell you. I can't connect with, that part. I've only read the intro, which I thought was funny.
Well, when I read it the first time, I almost finished it the first time, but by the time we got to our last session, I was like, oh, this is nice. We talked about all these different levels of consciousness. I can tell that I'm probably at this level, and, I'm working towards the next level. But because I had not gone through that peaceful experience of letting go and felt that physical fear, I didn't know or understand. I couldn't comprehend what he was talking about every time he would say, and then you let it go.
Yeah, okay.
Because there was one.
So you're making my point.
Paragraph.
Yeah, when I told you I'm reading this stuff and I don't get it, what does that tell you? I'm not there. I'm not there. It's like you can't force it.
Once I started over, I read the one paragraph where it talks about, letting go and having humility, and then you can move forward. Well, now I know what that means.
Yeah, because you've done it.
Go through,
so you can go, go ahead. It's amazing.
Shame or guilt, and I would envision an experience that I've had, or I would envision like a fake experience, just something that like I would never want to do because I was embarrassed or guilty or ashamed. And I would feel the fear that you and I helped me experience during our last session, and I would sit with it, and I would let it permeate, and then let it go. Yeah,
well, you have to, I'm going to give you some detail in there, because it's not just sitting and letting it be there, it's actually getting to know it. So that was very, very, very important. A lot of people who, I'm not going to judge here, but a lot of people just tell you to sit in it until it goes away. No, that's passive. That's like just closing your eyes and waiting for it to go away, go away, go away. That's like a monster's in the room and you're going to close your eyes and cover yourself until it's gone. That's not how this works. You have to invite it in. You have to let it come into your cells. You have to breathe it into your lungs. You have to feel it so that you can understand it and get to know it and wonder, why are you here? And you have to ask questions about it. And then the other part of the process is, should I feel bad about this? And there is this reconciliation and recovery process that requires grace and forgiveness. So it's not just sit there until it goes away. It's incredibly engaging. You are engaged in it. And just the will to do that is incredibly powerful into your consciousness, because the willingness to sit with it all of a sudden opens you up to information that exists. You could say it exists in the consciousness that you're not in yet. The willingness to go through that pain opens up your brain to a space of awareness. But the only way to do it is to be willing to feel terrible and not defend yourself and not excuse it, and to have the humility to just, I want to know why this is the way it is. I really want to know and it doesn't matter if it's something I don't want to hear. I need to hear it, and I'm willing to hear it. So it opens you up to answers into a space of consciousness that you previously weren't open to. You don't want to feel it. You're not afraid of it. You're not going to look at it. You don't want to touch it. So it kind of keeps you low, right?
Right.
So the willingness to go through that actually is the door upwards. But that takes humility and an integrity, that it's an alignment. You have to have this integrity of will to go beyond your scope of understanding. And the only way to do that is through humility, to admit that I am flawed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know it all. There's more that I don't know. Yes. And that it's okay. So that's the grace and the forgiveness part that I was saying. And I don't have to. And I admit that I am flawed and I don't get it. And that willingness and surrendering, and to say, and I failed, and I'm a failure, and the white flag goes up, and I surrender, and I admit that this has been, and I'm done, and I'm willing to die to get rid of it. Kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's this space that you didn't know was there that you can't be aware of.
I can't unlearn it now.
Because it's like seeing a room with the lights on versus with a spotlight in one area. It's like so if you only have a spotlight on one part of the room, that's all you see. What we did is we turned on a big light that showed you the space, or at least more space. And so it's like, oh my God, there is so much more space than what I thought. And the space in reality is infinite, right? There's so much space that we don't know exists, partly because we don't have the sense to it. We don't have a sensory of it. We're mammals with limited sense, with limited sensation.
We only have so many.
Totally. Anyways. Yeah. So back to you in your process. So
So I did it 3 times, and then I was exhausted, and I went to bed.
Good. Now, tell me, do you feel different?
Yes. So the next morning, when I got up, and since then, I do feel different. I felt optimistic before, but now I feel really optimistic. And I have had so many conversations with coworkers since that process where they've said things that is so offensive. And
hold on, I want to make sure I understood what you said, that they were offensive. They said offensive things.
Yeah.
They probably didn't know.
They were saying offensive things to me. They
No.
were saying offensive in religion things.
Yeah, thin supremacy, but they don't. Yeah. But they believe it, so they don't think it's offensive. They think it's actually true. Yeah.
Right. So, and I didn't believe it, and I felt so different about it, and I didn't buy it. It was just a completely different response than I've ever had before. When someone says, should I be drinking that soda? I don't care. Want to drink it? I don't care. Please drink it. I don't care.
Doesn't matter. Like if that's what you're gonna create like a problem with, holy crap, you're crazy, right? That drinking a soda. Just think how small that space is.
Right.
In terms of,
I actually downloaded a new screensaver for my phone, and it's a picture of the Milky Way,
which is just one galaxy, right?
Yeah.
Just one.
I'm not even a dot on that screen because it's just so insignificant. It doesn't matter that decision about the soda. No one cares.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Of all the decisions you need to make today, why is that one so important? Why? And if it is important, you're believing some fantasy that's been created by someone who's selling you something, who's trying to get power.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you were to describe where you're at compared to where you were, are you getting what you thought you were going to get from these sessions?
Before, I mentally believed it. I believed what you were telling me, and I thought that it was a good idea, and I wanted to do that too. Now that I went through the process that we did in our last session, where I had to feel that pain and force myself okay with it, now I don't just mentally believe it, I physically feel it. I physically feel a decision change of what is important and what is not important. And that I honestly didn't believe I would get that far in our session, just because I've never had to tap into something that emotional before. I always ran away from it.
Yeah, and you probably this is where it's like you had no idea. You really didn't have any idea.
Right.
You didn't.
No.
And if you were like, how do I explain this, right? This space. How do I say, this is what you're going to get?
Well, in all the videos that I watched, I never found one that explained working up that mental fear or shame or guilt feeling and feeling that feeling in my body and then not fighting it, make it go away. It's so uncomfortable.
God, they're there, dude. I even described my own process. You just didn't connect with any of it.
I never found it.
Yeah, you probably heard it and just was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, you just dismissed it because it wasn't relevant to you based on where you were at.
So that's what I was lacking. And once it took like 30 minutes or more to contain that feeling and to roll around in it for me to come out on the other side.
Yeah, I want you to see something. If you were to look back, the entire process required that you actually personally, internally, that you had to accept being fat permanently. It wasn't just, I accept fat being now. It was, it is a permanent reality that I have to be okay with. And it can't be just like, And I'm going to hold the thin body in a closet back here because someday I'm going to do the protocols where we're going to be thin. No. It's like in order for you to have made that shift, it had to be real and permanent.
The pain made it real for me.
Well, yeah, and and to accept it, right? You had to be willing to accept permanent obesity.
Yep.
That's really important. That's what it requires. Permanently.
The videos that I've watched since then, the topic has been brought up of, do you want to do the protocol again? And I would click through those videos and not watch them because even right now, today, when I think about it, I get sick and I don't want to think about having to do that structure and the worry, and I can't do it. I'm not ready.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You just got here. Welcome, by the way.
Thanks.
Welcome to this new space. Congratulations. Here we are, and you need to kind of stay here for a while and give yourself the grace of reality. If you're in reality, you're not in a vacuum anymore. How's that feel?
It feels great.
Right? I know. It's the most amazing thing to be in reality, in this planet, on this earth, in this body, with those trees, and you're just going with it. You're like laying on a wave in the ocean, just going, take me where you're going to go. Woohoo! That's what it feels like.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, the protocol is something that I might bring up later. But you have to be in a space in your mind where it has no pull or push. It's nothing. Right? You need to be in this space, especially with food. If you can actually look at this, come out here with me and look at this. Like, all of a sudden, you'll notice you have no food issues. Like, there literally should be gone. Like, poof. Food is abundant. Like, you have no issues. There should be zero.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not no issue. So many people are like, I really need to fix my food issues. And I'm like, we can't. We have to fix this first. That stuff's easy. It happens naturally. It's kind of like going pee when you need to go pee. It doesn't take effort. You don't need to know very much. It's like the body really requires very little from you consciously, cognitively. It really requires you just listen to these. It's kind of pain sensations coming from the bladder, coming from your throat, coming from the mouth. Like when I'm eating, if I'm done, my mouth swells slightly. I can feel that, but I'm very conscious around not having any dialogue in my head about, should I eat it? Shouldn't I eat it? Oh my God, I can't believe I ate it. I worked my ass off for it. I can eat it. There's none of that going on. Right? That's the miracle of this whole process. Cause and so do I know the insanity involved in how the brain was being hijacked by that mammal area of the brain. It's like obsessive-compulsive crazy. You can't stop, and you don't know how.
Insanity is the only word for it.
I know.
I face protocol now. Like, go.
I know. Go. I call it the crazy train. I'm like on this crazy train of insanity, and you don't know where it is just going, and it's gonna it's just crazy. And your brain, you don't know how to stop it. And all I had to do is say, here's the exit. And you were willing to go through it temporarily for the moment, just even momentarily pause is worth it to me. Not everybody gets where you're at. They're too afraid once they get to the door that every single person has to go through. And we're all the same, right? This is, I don't know if it was you. I'm like, we're all this is the same part. I went through the same exact door. It's the same for every single client I work with. Now, getting to that door, that's yours. That's yours. However you got there, all I know is there's suffering involved with getting to your hands and knees to where you're crawling to the door to finally get out. Right?
Yep.
And the other thing is everybody who gets there is usually crawling on their hands and knees, desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I was not suicidal, but I was at work and it started to cry because I wanted to eat, but I was telling myself that I couldn't. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, bite the bullet and call her woman. She can help me with my food addiction.
Your food addiction, because it's all about the food and you can't stop. And there's a process of awareness, right? I have to be able to help you see things differently, to connect dots, because it's confusing and it's disorienting when you're inside it. And can you see now why people would focus on food as the problem?
Yeah, well, we're just told for so many years, eat this, not that. If you eat this instead of that other thing, you won't be hungry. But if you are, it's like when they tell you not to think of the pink elephant in the room. That's all you think about is the pink elephant.
That's because everybody thinks the pink elephant is an idol, a gold statue. Everybody wants the pink elephant. Anyway, so congrats. I'm super excited for you. But this is just the beginning of the there's a process. You're over probably the hardest thing you're ever going to do. You just did it.
Okay.
Honestly, what can't you handle after that? What are you afraid of at this point? I mean, because you're...
Nothing, because I've been thinking about this adaptation thing nonstop. And I'm putting an idea into my head. I'm like, okay, that was scary. And how am I going to adapt around it? Yeah,
and now in any given circumstance, you are aware you can adapt because you just did it to something terrible. It doesn't mean it's really terrible, because on the other side, you're like, there's nothing. What? That's like a tiny pebble of nothingness. A tiny pebble of nothingness on the other side. But when you're on that side, it's horrific. And it's understandable why people are so obsessive compulsive about food. Right? It's the means to the end. Dieting is the means to the end of safety. But that safety is extremely dangerous. Right? Because then it creates that volatility around food, which is then directly competing with what you're trying to change. It's just a vicious cycle. It's very difficult to get out without changing your beliefs around body fat completely. And you have to unravel all this brainwashing and indoctrination about food.
Which is extremely hard to do if you do any kind of social media, watch television, look at a magazine.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it's not like I had to untrain you and I didn't have to defend or unravel every point. All I had to do is say, get some humility. All it is humility to admit you don't know everything. That's it.
Yep.
Right? We don't know anything. And we're unfolding in this process. And we become aware as we unfold. And in order to unfold, you have to have humility to let go of what you previously were at. I mean, it's just constant, perpetual evolution. And we're all doing it, including myself. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say to the listener about your experience?
Yeah, I thought that I wasn't going to be able to make it through the door that you were talking about, and I was afraid that I was going to fail this process, and I'm glad I kept going. And going through the door was actually physically painful in my mind. It made it painful, but you just have to choose to do it. And I had to ask for help from you. I couldn't do it on my own without you on the phone.
Yep, I'm okay with that. You're not the first person I've had to... I'm sitting on the sidelines going, now you're going to do this. No, I want you to think of this. Stay focused on that, right? Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You did it. It's real.
Yeah.
It's not like it wasn't as real as someone who's had to do it on their own. Usually people...
No, I had no idea. I needed someone to hold my hand and say, no, one foot in front of the other, now the other foot.
Yeah.
Okay, now breathe, and now take one more step.
Yep.
I couldn't do it by myself.
And you're going to accept that you're going to be fat. It's going to be permanent. And you had to breathe it into your body. And breathing that in, and it feels like it's going to be permanent. And you did it.
Yeah.
And now you don't care if it's permanent, right? Like, I don't care.
No, I really don't.
Why does that matter?
It's so crazy to say.
Yeah, I know. I didn't have any guidance. I mean, I did, right? But it wasn't because of someone else. It was this internal guidance. I don't know what it was. It may have been I call it an out-of-body experience, but it may have been my brain fighting for survival, finding neural pathways outside of myself. You never know, right? It could have been hallucinations that I was having in that moment. But whatever it was, I just did for you what that did for me. That's it.
Whatever it was, I'm glad that it worked. So
me too.
Lead me through.
Yeah, and now it's like, okay, that's the hardest thing you've ever done psychologically. And then you turn around and you're like, holy shit, why couldn't I have done this earlier? It just took humility. I just wasn't humble enough. Oh my God. You look back and you're like, that was freaking easy.
Yeah.
What was I, but it's not when you're in it. It's terrifying. It feels like you're getting murdered. Literally, you're getting murdered. It feels like you're going to die. Right. And something's going to kill you and you're surrendering to it. Like, I don't care. I will let you do it if that's what this takes. I would really like to die. If I die from this, I need to know. Yeah, I had to guide you there. That does take the guidance component, because your brain's thinking, but don't I need to do this because I need to be healthy? Don't I need to lose weight? I mean, shouldn't I remove all this sugar because it's so inflammatory? Right? That's that brain, like that's the hijacked frontal cortex, right? That incredible intellectual brain that's working for a bias that's terrible. Because it's all relative. I don't have to listen to that anymore. Right? If you're a scientist, you know as well as I do that it's not in a vacuum. That's relative to dose and quantity. And actually, it's not just relative to that. It's relative to your body's response to that under any given circumstance, which is relative to the environment that your body's in. I mean, really?
Exactly. If I was doing a real experiment in the lab, I'm going to have to narrow down as many parameters as possible and have no outside sources causing any kind of change. Because if they do, well then, my data is shit.
Pretty much. So, and then to say, your brain is responding to it because it's pleasurable. Well, that doesn't take into account the lack of food that you had prior to, your feelings and emotions about that relative to beliefs, and that's what makes human brains super complicated. Yep. Right? Anyway, so the whole food addiction model is just really ignorant.
They're not taking into consideration what they're saying.
At all. Whatsoever. And it's now on this side. Can you see how obvious that is?
Yes.
Like,
on the other side, I would just tell myself, gotta try harder. Gotta try harder.
You need to abstain.
Now, on this side, I can see there is no trying harder. There's killing yourself with torture.
For nothing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording. Anything else? Anything else you want to say?
Sounds good.
Okay, all right.